Morning, folks. Long time no record. So Hammerhead released a software update. I guess it was yesterday. It was supposed to be Thursday, but it ended up being yesterday. The astute among you will notice that the Garmin's back on the bike, and that's because there were some changes. Specifically, neighbor beeping at me. There were specifically some changes. Excuse me. To well, there were some changes to routing. There really wasn't a lot on the list. I'll probably put it up on the screen if I can and overlay it, because I'm sure that I'm going to forget something, probably doing this off the top of my head. I believe the version number is 1.5.19.3. I think that's right. The 19, I believe, is correct. I'm not sure about the 3. One of the specific fixes, and now I'm immediately concerned, is that supposedly there was a fix for Stage's power meters. That doesn't appear to be the case. If you can see what's going on here, I didn't turn off Bluetooth, but I disabled the ticker and the Stages on Bluetooth, and I'm trying to use Ant Plus, which they say is more power efficient, and also apparently they've increased stability. Well, the Karoo can't find the Stages. So I'm not sure what's going on here. The Garmin has found the Stages, because you can see the little power symbol there, or the little dumbbell, which indicates a power meter connected. It hasn't seen the cadence, although I believe that symbol only shows up if it's a separate cadence meter. And the speed sensor has been noticed, and it's okay here. The speed sensor and the ticker are both connected by Ant Plus, but it's still searching for the power meter, which doesn't make sense. And I keep spinning the crank. You're hearing me spin the crank. I apologize for the wobbly video, but I'm spinning the crank trying to wake it up, and nothing's happening. So the other big thing, and I'm going to skip that for now. So the other big thing supposedly is with routes that you're supposed to be able to, or routes, depending on how you say it in your part of the world, you're supposed to be able to grab these mid-ride. So what I'm going to do is actually try this out. I haven't usually done it this way before, but you can go to the route. There's this little checkbox here, and then you can say ride, and it will actually start the ride, I believe. Oh no, it just doesn't start the ride. So let's see what happens here, because this is the other thing that people are getting. They're getting these waiting for instructions messages immediately, and I just swiped that away. I'm going to go to the map and see if it's any better. But what I've found is that once you actually start moving, and I'm kind of trying to walk it down the driveway, once you start moving, for me this has been going away, and now it's going to make a liar out of me. So I'm not sure what's going on here either. This route doesn't start typically where it would start for me, like just basically at the end of my driveway. It starts about a mile down the street. So what I was planning to do is actually pass the start of the route, because I'm not sure this works the way they think it works, or the way they think people want it to work. I think what people want it to happen is, if they're partway into a route and they realize they've forgotten to start the route, they could pick it up mid-ride. You are supposed to be able to change routes, and I can actually show that by going through the tab, but by going through the pause menu. So you see there's a new option here. The old options used to be resume, save, and discard. Now there's a change route. So you can add a route on the fly, but I'm suspecting what's going to happen here, and I don't know, so I shouldn't throw them under the bus yet, but my speculation is that if I pass the start and try to quote-unquote pick up a route midstream, I think it's going to route me back to the start, and I don't think that's what people are looking for. But so right now we have two problems. One is this waiting for instructions, which everybody seems to be getting. Now it sees the map, Wi-Fi is actually on, location is on, Bluetooth, everything is on. So it shouldn't really be having this problem. I'm going to roll down to the cul-de-sac at the end of the street here and see if this goes away, and we'll pick this back up in a second. So you can see by the little gray line that I've gone down to the cul-de-sac and back again, and this has not gone away, which is kind of a bummer. And this is what people have been reporting. I came out into my driveway yesterday and tried this, but albeit with a slightly different route. And it seemed like once I actually started moving and auto pause went away, that it actually picked it up, but that route was actually from my driveway. So I'm gonna stop this. Trying to avoid flip-flopping my hands with the GoPro, but I'm naturally left-handed, so some of this has become a little bit confusing. So I'm gonna discard this ride, and we're gonna do another one with the route that worked yesterday when I tried it in the driveway. So this route starts, I don't know if it's at the end of my driveway or down the street a bit, but this route did work yesterday. So it's actually telling me to go towards the cul-de-sac a little bit, so the little, I think, no, that maybe that's the end of it. Well, we're gonna do this again. We're gonna roll down to the cul-de-sac and see if these go away this time. Back quickly again. So what I'd really like to do is go for a ride, and this is not working. So this is behaving differently than it did yesterday with the same software version. I have no idea what's going on here. Some people have suggested taking auto pause off, so I guess I'm going to try that, and I'm going to but before I run out of day trying to figure this device out, what I'm going to do is probably just going to ride. So I'm going to try to get this thing set up, whether it does the turn-by-turn or not. I was actually hoping to show some of the weird turn-by-turn instructions, but if this never gives me turn-by-turn instructions, then that's not going to happen. So I'm going to stop recording now, and we'll check back later. Yep, so far, folks, this isn't getting any better. So you can see from the map that I'm, a stone's throw literally from the start of the route. I don't know if this is going to fix itself. When I actually hit the route, I was planning to try to ride past it and see if it would pick it up midstream, but this is not particularly encouraging. This went from waiting for instructions to waiting for GPS. Now, clearly, it has a GPS lock. It knows exactly where I am. That map is 100% correct with where I am. So it's really unclear what this is, why this is happening. I was actually hoping to be super positive with this video today because I used this device. I didn't record much, but I used this device last week on Saturday for a 40-mile mixed road and gravel event in upstate New York. I was not familiar with the roads at all, and the Karoo worked perfectly that morning. I did get a little bit of waiting for instruction kind of at the start shoot of the event. It was a mass start event, and I was a little bit worried, but the Karoo worked great for that. So now I'm home on my roads where I don't need turn-by-turn, and now it's not working. I haven't ridden this route in a while to know whether there's something wrong with the route, but I have ridden this route before with turn-by-turn. So, and this is what other people have been reporting in both Hammerhead's forums, KarooUsers.org, and the Facebook group, that they thought they had fixed it, or people were getting this. I wasn't getting this, and now with the latest update, I am getting this. So, yeah, it's one of these one step forward, two steps back updates, at least for me currently. So I'm going to cross the threshold here, I guess, of where the ride should have started and see what happens. If it picks up, then at some point during the ride, I'll probably stop. The good news, I guess, is that the red line is there, but you can see that the red line crosses itself, and there's a roundabout up ahead of me. So if you didn't know what the route was, and I do, obviously these are my neighborhoods, it would be very confusing because the red line is going to cross itself, and it's not going to be clear coming up if you were to just come to my area, grab my route, and try to ride it. It's not going to be clear if this isn't working, which direction you're supposed to go. So we'll see what happens. Hi again, folks. So brief moment of quiet. I was sharing this little platform dock with a gentleman earlier, but he just walked off, so I think I'll try to record now. So, you know, not good news. This is still there. What I'm actually going to try right now is changing the route and then changing it back. So this is the one we're on. Boy, I'm not sure. I guess I'll pick the one from home because that might actually do something. Well, that's not the behavior I was expecting. So you can hear my heavy sighs probably over the wind because this is not what I wanted at all. My understanding was that it was going to let me change the route. Now it appears to be saving the ride, which also isn't working. So, not sure what's going to happen here. Pause doesn't work. Double click works to get back to the thing. I think I'm going to try to kill the route. Is that going to take me back to the ride? It does look like it took me back to the ride. I still have waiting for GPS. It shows me paused and it shows the mileage. I did double, triple, I don't know how many, quintuple checked my wheel circumference again. I took it right off the last reading from the Garmin, had Google do the millimeter to inch conversion for me, and I'm still short 0.2 of a mile. This is only 10 miles in, so this is about normal. But wheel circumference should be exact. I guess I'm going to hope that this is still recording, but again, this is why we have the Garmin. When they issue software updates, we ride with the Garmin for a while to see what's fixed and what's broken again. And I was going to do the, this is where my checklist falls apart every time because I get talking to you guys and I forget. I'll pan up for a second. That's just 23 feet below sea level. So you can see where I am. Tide is probably down a little bit, maybe. But I'm definitely not 23 feet below sea level. So I actually had done the manual calibration briefly. Actually, I think this morning I set it. What I'm finding is that it creeps, and it creeps steadily downward. So you can go out for a ride, come home, and it's 10 to 20 feet below where you left. You can leave it sitting on your nightstand. You'll wake up the next morning, it's another 10 feet down. So something's definitely not quite right. I know they said that they're just not going to stress about it because it's overall the elevation they think is correct. This says 200 feet of ascent and 352 feet of descent, so that's probably right because I do live on top of a hill and now I am down by the water. So that's actually, you know, while we're talking about it, that's actually quite good because I live at about 150 feet above sea level. So that might actually almost be right on. So they may have that correct. It's just frustrating that it doesn't give you the current elevation. Because if you were climbing, you know, I don't live in a hilly area, but if you were climbing and you knew the meters or the feet of the climb that you were doing, you might, but you were otherwise unfamiliar with that climb, you might want to know, hey, I'm 100 feet from the summit, I'm 500 feet from the summit. Information like that would be useful. And where they don't have elevation profiles yet on the map, then, you know, the actual true elevation becomes a little more important. These charts appear to be working, and I did flip-flop them, so the top is power and the lower is heart rate. Everything else looks correct. I'm a little encouraged by my average speeds today, but it's a nice day and it's warm, so when it's warmer you go a little faster, usually up until a point where it gets too hot to actually ride. So we'll see if this ride actually saves correctly when I get home. I'm not sure what that saving bit was about when I tried to change routes, but I don't think I'm going to try that again because it's not working. and obviously this is not working, although it's possible that I woke it out of some sort of stupor here. This is not on this road. This place where I am is not on the map. So this was the same route I did several videos ago with the when I did the instructions basically on how to follow a route, and we had a rerouting issue when we got to here because this is not actually a road, it's just a parking lot, and it did pick back up when I went back onto the route. So I can still follow the the red line, and that's going to appear back over here. So that part is working, although I'm getting some very weird, you can see right there that I'm getting some very strange GPS routes. That is probably a good 20 feet off the side of the road. I had another one back a ways if I can get to it. That you can see that line is way off. It's almost got me in the water there. And then at this turn here, you can see it totally just flipped out. So I guess maybe this waiting for GPS is correct, and I just don't have a very good lock right now. But that's really frustrating. And like I said, this worked last weekend in a very where I kind of needed it to work. Although the route was super well marked, it was a very well put together event. But it was nice to have, you know, the markers on this course were, you know, right at the turn. So it was very nice to have the Karoo working and the routing working, because I would know a mile or half a mile that I had a turn coming up, and I could either prepare for it, get to the proper side of the road, or things like that. So it was nice that it worked for that event, and now they've updated the software and something's not working again. So probably won't stop again unless something magical happens. I'll do a little quick summary at home. Also of note is that, for me at least, they did not fix the stages issue. I was never able to connect on 3 tries to get the stages to connect via ANT+, so we're back to Bluetooth. Hi folks, so back home, and you know, things other than turn by turn, I guess things were fine. There were some, as I noted earlier, there were some weirdness with the track being, I would say, several meters or yards off to the side. It looks like it sort of corrected itself, but waiting for GPS never went away. It looks like it recorded everything. We're back at 125 feet, so that's about 30 feet low as far as my understanding goes, but ascent and descent are, you know, within a couple feet of each other. So again, they're probably correct in that the overall elevation is correct, even if the starting and ending point isn't. And I'm guessing that has to do with the fact that it's a barometric altimeter, and as long as the weather doesn't change drastically while you're out, things should be reasonably okay. This is obviously power is down here, so fairly consistent ride. I actually have another longer ride tomorrow, so it's just sort of out mostly to show you the software update and see how things were. I was expecting turn by turn to work because it did yesterday in the driveway, and today it did not. So I'm not sure what the difference is or why this is on again, off again in these software updates. So 202 watts, whether that's accurate or not, I don't know, but it's consistent. 17.5, 22.9 miles. The Garmin says 23.5. So again, we're I know that the wheel circumference is set the same, so I'm not sure, again, if one is using GPS and one is using the wheel, if somehow the math is off. Time is good, 117, 118. I guess we'll know for sure when we get inside. Heart rate, when the Karoo pauses, everything pauses, so it doesn't update heart rate. So you can see my heart rate on the Garmin is dropping slowly. It's holding steady on the Karoo, but everything else is correct. I mean, I'm back home. You know, I don't understand this, and I would love for Hammerhead to explain this to folks, why these are happening. You know, if they don't know, then maybe they should tell us they don't know and they're still working on it, and ask for fit files and any other logging maybe that the devices do. But it's super frustrating when it's clear that it does have GPS because the map was moving the whole time, and you get this trying to get turn by turn. Didn't need them today, don't need them tomorrow, may need them in the future, but I mean, that's what this thing is supposed to do. That's one of the things that this device is you know, that they're touting is the turn-by-turn directions and the screen and the map and all that. So I'm sure you're hearing a level of frustration in my voice, because for the last 2 or 3 updates this has worked fine for me. Now they've released an update which was supposed to fix it or make turn-by-turn better, and for it seems like the vast majority of people it's actually worse. It was working for me, now it's not. People on the forums and other places where the device wasn't working, it's still not working. So they didn't fix it for the people it was broken for in the last update, and they broke it for the people who it was working for in the last update. So I have a couple of rides to show probably inside this video. I'm sure it's getting super long. But I've probably got, well, I have one from last weekend that I recorded on the Karoo, and my watch, mostly because the Karoo was acting funny, as I said in the start shoot for this Gran Fondo, so I hit the watch quickly because I was worried that I wasn't going to get anything. And that's probably going to be less interesting, because really all the watch is recording is the path or the track and my heart rate. It doesn't connect to my sensors. But today's might be more interesting because we have both the Garmin and the Karoo with the new software. I don't believe the Garmin has updated recently, but I guess we'll take a look at those 2 rides. I have others, but there's no comparison, so those really aren't that interesting. But we're probably up to, you know, 25, 27 rides. I'm not sure what the total volume of Karoo rides is, and you know, up until today my positivity level was you know, creeping up, and now we're in a bit of a valley again. So we'll head inside. Might not be actually till tomorrow because it's a beautiful day and I should need to get some yard work done, but it's supposed to rain in the last half of the day tomorrow, so probably that's a good time to kind of scrub through videos and edit this up and get something out to folks. See you later. Hi folks, later in the day, same day, actually Saturday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, for those paying attention. I'm in street clothes. You see my ugly legs sticking out from underneath. So interesting thing, I just grabbed my cyclocross bike because I have a little like club event tomorrow, and then later in the afternoon I have to actually assist with a road race, a running race. So I agreed to be a bike marshal. So I grabbed one of my, I don't know if you can see it under here, grabbed one of my extra bar flies that's lying around. It's a kind of a short one, and the Karoo looks a little goofy, sticking up over the stem. But I need to drop off my road bike for some service. I'm having some issues with just disc brake on the front. So I thought for chasing down runners that the cyclocross bike would be fine. So I thought I'd grab it, and you know, lo and behold, while I'm out here, I tossed in a route, and magically turn-by-turn directions are appearing again. This is a very simple set of data pages. I have absolutely zero explanation as to why this is working all of a sudden. Same Karoo, same route. I believe that I tried to show earlier. In fact, I can actually pause this right now, or hopefully, and discard this, and so you can see a different data set. Instead of my road bike with power, this is the cyclocross bike. I haven't actually set up these data pages. I don't have power on my cyclocross bike, but I do have a cadence sensor, which I took off the road bike because when I got the power meter I didn't need the cadence sensor anymore, because the power meter has cadence built in. So I'm actually going to try this while you're watching. This is the route test that I did, or tried to do earlier today. This waiting for instructions, again, in my experience, this appears, well, there it goes. So you just watched it change. So that was the route we tried this morning that didn't work, and almost less than 6 hours later, or 7 hours later, it is working. And this, just of note, this route doesn't start from home. This route starts about a mile down the road, so it is routing me to the start. I think we can, yeah, you can see that on the map because the red line doesn't, let me unlock this and see if I can zoom out. So you can see the blue line is taking me, and the red line, that is actually the end of the route. That pin with the dark circle in the middle, that is the start of the route. The pin with the clear circle. And this is where I stopped earlier in the day to kind of show you how close I was to the actual start. This little corner right here. So yeah, no explanation. So I don't know where I haven't actually started to do the data comparison on the computer. So I guess I'll stick this into the end of the video, or I guess before the data comparison. I'm not really sure how this makes sense, but you're going to hear a lot of complaining up until this point, and now you're going to see that maybe it's working again. So I did actually put the route in for the ride I'm going to do tomorrow. I know the route like the back of my hand. It's our typical Sunday ride, but I thought I would put it in. There's going to be probably about 40 people in the parking lot tomorrow, so I'm not going to try to record YouTube video or GoPro video like this. At least I may record some of the ride and stitch that in at a later date to kind of show you the sights, maybe. So again, this is super confusing. I honestly have no idea. Oh, the thing is unlocked. That's why it's acting strangely. Once you lock the map screen, it recenters on your location. So yeah, so apparently turn by turn is working now when it didn't work 7 hours ago. So go figure. I guess we're still all beta testers. Hi folks, so I'm going to try to keep this relatively brief because I know this video has gotten super long at this point. But what I did was I took, well, so the ride from Saturday, and this looks weird because this is not the ride from Saturday. So the ride from Saturday was when I recorded the video. Basically everything else worked fine, and I can show that in a minute, but I already have this comparison up. But except for the turn-by-turn directions, so that was a complete disaster. And as the little clip at the end showed, or just before this clip, went out later with the cyclocross bike. For some reason, turn-by-turn magically worked. Went back inside, checked the I checked the forums, karoousers.org, and discovered that a couple people had noticed that they thought the issue was that autopause was causing issues again with turn-by-turn directions, which seems totally unrelated. That's what they said. I thought, hooey, that doesn't make any sense. I just went outside and proved that it wasn't that. And then I realized that, and you'll see it in the video, I selected my cyclocross bike profile and not my road bike profile. The cyclocross bike profile doesn't have autopause set, so that may very well have been the issue. I rode again yesterday, which would be at this point Monday, May 7th. It's my normal Monday recovery ride. It's here. I could show it, but it's not very interesting because it's just a very easy paced ride. It's also our club beginner ride, so when we have new members, we often direct them to that ride. So it's relatively slow. We stop a lot. It doesn't really show anything that interesting. It was also recorded on the cyclocross bike, which was the whole point of me remounting the Karoo, or remounting the mount, because I don't have one big enough to have it on two different bikes. Because my road bike was being serviced, and I needed the cyclocross bike to do that ride. So let's see, back to I'm going to go back a couple of weeks, but this is actually Sunday's ride, and the reason it says Saturday, May 5th at the top is because the Sunday ride was also a disaster, but for different reasons. So the Sunday ride was a memorial ride for our immediate past president. Anyways, it doesn't really make that much difference, but it was kind of a big deal. 40 or 50 people in the parking lot. I did put the route in to the Karoo, although I didn't really need it. I thought, well, let's give it another try. I actually don't remember if I turned off autopause on the road bike profile,
because it didn't seem like it was going to matter, because when I imported the ride from Ride with GPS, because the Karoo's portal or web interface wasn't allowing me to actually create the ride, and then I imported it through Ride with GPS. Immediately, it appeared on the Karoo, which is good. I hit the little button that says to make available offline. That downloaded quickly, and then I was immediately presented with turn-by-turn directions unavailable. So still not clear what the reasoning for that is. Anyways, it was what it was. I didn't need the turn-by-turn, but when I got to the parking lot that morning, I thought, what the hell, let me give it a try. I added the route before starting the ride, and I was presented with a dialog box that said, turn by turn is unavailable. You have to press OK, or I can't remember if it's OK or cancel, but anyways, I pressed OK, assuming that would just dismiss the dialog box and I would get stuck with waiting for instruction or waiting for GPS, except lo and behold, I got perfect turn-by-turn directions for the entire ride. So I have no idea what that symbol or that verbiage means on the actual routes that says turn-by-turn unavailable, because it's not accurate. So the reason that these two rides are, or that you'll see in a second, that the comparison, why this is 5.5 and 5.6, is because although turn-by-turn directions worked for this ride, suddenly the Karoo completely forgot about my speed sensor. So I looked down a couple minutes into the ride, realized that I had no speed, which was a pain because I was actually leading the second group. I was trying to maintain a certain speed to keep the group together, so I had to revert to using, I guess, perceived exertion and power, because I could never get speed back. So you can see down here the ride, I guess, recorded for 5/1000ths of a mile and then stops. So there's no distance and there's no average speed. The second line, the blue line, is the Karoo activity again, but it's been processed through the FitFile repair tool. So there's a guy on the Garmin forums who very graciously offers up his $50 copy of FitFile repair tool to people having problems with FitFiles. So I sent that to him, he processed it, and I did get proper distance and proper speed, although, well, let's hit the compare button now. I can't remember what else. Oh, I remember what else is weird. So the top ride on the Karoo was the one originally recorded, and the one in blue is the corrected version. And you can see over here that it shows 15,000 feet of elevation. I have no idea what that could possibly be. I don't know if that just stems from the corruption. When the ride was uploaded to Strava, it was almost even worse, because I got credit for no distance, no speed, and no elevation. I've since been able to correct the Strava ride to at least give me my distance, which is mostly what I cared about, you know, for totals and things at the end of the year. But I have no idea where this information came from. I probably didn't do the calibration in the parking lot again, partly because I forgot and partly because I don't know what the elevation of that parking lot is to set anything accurately. But you can kind of see that everything else is, well, obviously everything else is going to be pretty good, because it's literally the same file processed, reprocessed to attempt to recover some data. I'm assuming this elevation gain was, and that's probably accurate, because I believe that pretty much matches what, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know what Strava showed, because Strava didn't show it. Anyway, everything else is going to be almost identical, because, or is going to be identical, because it's the same file. It's not like this is what I've done in the past, where I have the Karoo and I have the Garmin going at the same time. I ran with only the Karoo, and this is just the corrupt file versus the correct file. So there's really, I'm not going to scan through this, because I've already been talking a super long time to try to get through some of this information. What I am going to do is backtrack a little bit, and I wanted to show so this ride from April 28th was the Gran Fondo that I did in upstate New York a couple of weeks ago, or I guess a week and a half ago. I got nervous in the start chute because once again the Karoo had that waiting for instruction method while I was sitting at the start chute. So I was concerned that I wasn't going to get a recording. So before the whistle or the gun went off, I actually quickly hit my Garmin watch so that I would get a recording. Now the comparison, I'm going to clear this one, and like I said, I'm not going to go through all these pages because there's just nothing to really show. So this file, let's see, I got to turn off comparison for a second so I can tell. So this is the Karoo, and this is the Garmin Forerunner 235 watch. And if we put comparison back on, so again, I pressed the button for the watch because I was worried that the Garmin wasn't gonna, or that the Karoo wasn't gonna record, or something catastrophic was gonna happen. For me and the group I was with, this wasn't a race. It was more of a leisure ride, or, well, it was hard, but it was for fun and not for speed. But it turned out that once I started rolling down basically the start chute of this event, the turn-by-turn directions picked up, and the crew started recording actually quite well. It was, and I don't know if I mentioned it in the previous videos because, or previous clips, and I apologize because it's been a couple of days since I recorded those. Those were done on Saturday. It's now Tuesday, and I'm finally getting this video done. But it was awesome to have the turn-by-turn directions for roads that I was completely unfamiliar with. We basically drove up to this area the day before. It was pouring rain the day before. It poured rain that morning. The skies magically cleared for the 4 or 5 hours that it took us to complete the event, and then it poured rain again. Some of this was about 10 miles of the 40 was dirt and gravel. Quite a bit of climbing, at least for us living in a relatively flat area. So, but it was very nice to have the turn-by-turn directions. The course was super well marked and super well marshaled. There were people in orange vests on every corner. But it was nice to know from the crew, you know, hey, you've got a left-hand turn coming in a mile, or, you know, it would give the street name of the turn coming up, and I knew from just a little bit of scouting of the course that, oh, hey, that's one of the dirt sections. It's the first time I'd ever done this event. So it was nice to have kind of the pre-warning before you came around a corner and saw a marshal waving a flag to tell you to go left or right. Excuse me, apologies. So obviously this is going to be less interesting because only the crew recorded power, only the crew recorded cadence, those kind of things. Otherwise, things are pretty good. It's off by a mile, and that just seems like a normal thing these days. I don't know how to say it other than that it seems like that's just, I'm just getting used to the fact that I'm getting shorted. I think I'm getting shorted a little bit every ride, and it's like a certain, you know, it's 2% or whatever the heck it is. So, you know, there's not going to be any reading for watts from the watch. The heart rate is identical. The maximum heart rate is close enough to be pretty accurate, and typically, if you've never used one of these watches with the heart rate sensor on the wrist, they're not super accurate. So actually 190 versus 192 is pretty good. It's actually possible, and I can't remember how the watch is set right now, it actually is possible that the watch is picking up my heart rate strap, so it has its own heart rate sensor in it, but if you have an external heart rate sensor, they typically, even Garmin will admit that a chest strap is more accurate than their wrist-based one. The wrist-based one is good for certain kinds of things. It's not particularly great for cycling and hasn't been in my experience, but so this is that ride, and again, it's really not all that exciting because only the Karoo recorded certain functions, and it also looks like for some reason I either didn't hit the start or the stop at the same time, so things like speed are offset, although if you were to kind of slide the purple one to the left, they do seem to actually match up pretty well. It's hard to tell where they're not really on top of each other. But But none of these other things are going to be very interesting. I was worried that was going to actually crash, because the only thing that might be interesting is the heart rate, and that chart actually looks sort of okay. So this is a really long video. That wasn't the intent, and I'm not going to go through all these other rides, because for the most part the Karoo has been on the bike by itself, and things have been mostly fine. I would say that things have been actually quite good until this past Thursday update. So that's version 1.5.19.3. I'm pretty sure that's it, and I think I said that earlier in the video. But they have kind of really taken a step back again with this. I had a problem, again, I had the problem with the speed sensor. I have actually unpaired and repaired the speed sensor, and that seems to have corrected the problem, but it worked on, the speed sensor worked on Saturday and didn't work on Sunday. Same Karoo, same bike, same speed sensor, same software. It just, on Sunday, I guess, decided that it wasn't going to talk to the speed sensor anymore. The other disappointing thing, and it's a frustration, but I don't know if a Garmin would have done any better because I didn't have the Garmin on the bike. It would seem that if the device noticed or could check and see if you were moving based on GPS and that you weren't getting speed, that it could maybe then fall back on GPS signal to determine speed. That's what it did on the ride on if I was to load this ride up quickly. This bike does not have a speed sensor, and this is my cyclocross bike, so it was able to figure out distance from GPS signal. It was able to figure out average speed and maximum speed and things like that from the GPS signal. So you would think that if the speed sensor failed for whatever reason, there was communication issue, the readings weren't accurate, that the device could fail over or fall over to just using GPS signal to give you that information, but that doesn't appear to be the case right now. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to put this clip in, and God love you if you've gotten this far, because this one is really long. But if you have been, thank you for watching.